King Abdullah II, King of Jordan. What do you know about him and anything you don't know about him? This is what we will review with you. Welcome back, viewers, to another fascinating episode of. Today, we're diving into the intriguing world of royalty as we explore the life and reign of Abdullah II of Jordan, a monarch whose leadership has had a profound impact on the Middle East. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss an episode. Let's get started. Abdullah II, born on January 30th, 1962, is the reigning king of Jordan. He ascended to the throne on February 7, 1999, following the death of his father, King Hussein. As the eldest son, Abdullah II inherited the legacy of his father's leadership, and he has been instrumental in shaping the course of Jordan's history. King Abdullah II was educated both in Jordan and abroad. He attended St. Edmund's School in Surrey, United Kingdom, and then the Royal Military Academy Sandhurst, which laid the foundation for his military career. He later studied at Georgetown University in the United States and the University of Oxford, where he pursued courses in international affairs. Abdullah II's military service is a significant aspect of his life. He served in the Jordanian Armed Forces and was trained in various branches, including special operations and reconnaissance. His military background has played a crucial role in his approach to leadership and national security. King Abdullah II is often credited with initiating a series of significant political and economic reforms in Jordan. These reforms aim to modernize the country's political system, promote economic growth, and enhance the quality of life for the Jordanian people. His efforts included improving education, healthcare, and expanding civil liberties. Abdullah II has also been a key figure in regional diplomacy. Jordan's role as a mediator in the Middle East conflict has been greatly influenced by the king's diplomatic efforts. He's worked tirelessly to foster peace in the region, supporting initiatives like the Arab Peace Initiative and advocating for a two-state solution in the Israel-Palestine conflict. It's important to note that King Abdullah II has faced numerous challenges during his reign. These include the impact of regional conflicts, economic struggles, and the massive influx of refugees from neighboring countries. His leadership has been tested on many fronts, and his ability to navigate these challenges has been a testament to his resilience. In conclusion, King Abdullah II of Jordan is a monarch whose leadership has been defined by his commitment to modernization, diplomacy, and the welfare of his people. His legacy as a peacemaker, reformer, and military leader continues to shape the course of Jordan's history and the broader Middle East. Abdullah II bin al-Hussein Abd Allah Thani ibn al-Hussein, born the 30th of January 1962, is the current king of Jordan, having ascended the throne on the 7th of February 1999. He is a member of the Hashemite dynasty, who have been the reigning royal family of Jordan since 1921, and is considered a 41st-generation direct descendant of the Islamic prophet Muhammad. Abdullah was born in Amman as the first child of King Hussein and his second wife, Princess Muna. As the king's eldest son, Abdullah was heir apparent until Hussein transferred the title to Abdullah's uncle Prince Hassan in 1965. Abdullah began his schooling in Amman, continuing his education abroad. He began his military career in 1980 as a training officer in the Jordanian Armed Forces, later assuming command of the country's special forces in 1994, eventually becoming a major general in 1998. In 1993, Abdullah married Rania al-Yassin, with whom he has 4 children: Crown Prince Hussein, Princess Iman, Princess Salma, and Prince Hashim. A few weeks before his death in 1999, King Hussein named Abdullah his heir, and Abdullah succeeded his father. Abdullah, a constitutional monarch with wide executive and legislative powers, liberalized the economy when he assumed the throne, and his reforms led to an economic boom which continued until 2008. During the following years, Jordan's economy experienced hardship as it dealt with the effects of the Great Recession and spillover from the Arab Spring, including a cut in its petroleum supply and the collapse of trade with neighboring countries. In 2011, large-scale protests demanding reform erupted in the Arab world. Many of the protests led to civil wars in other countries, but Abdullah responded quickly to domestic unrest by replacing the government and introducing reforms to the constitution and laws governing public freedoms and elections. Proportional representation was introduced to the Jordanian parliament in the 2016 general election, a move which he said would eventually lead to establishing parliamentary government. Government critics remain skeptical, criticizing the reforms as resembling cosmetic changes. They took place amid unprecedented challenges stemming from regional instability, including an influx of 1.4 million Syrian refugees into the natural resources-lacking country, and the emergence of the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant. Abdullah is popular locally and internationally for maintaining Jordanian stability and is known for promoting interfaith dialogue and a moderate understanding of Islam. The longest-serving current Arab leader, he was regarded by the Royal Islamic Strategic Studies Center as the most influential Muslim in the world in 2016 and ranked 5th in 2022 and 2023. Abdullah is custodian of the Muslim and Christian sacred sites in Jerusalem, a position held by his dynasty since 1924. Abdullah was born on the 30th of January 1962 at Palestine Hospital in Amman, to King Hussein and Hussein's British-born second wife, Princess Muna al-Hussein. He is the namesake of his paternal great-grandfather, Abdullah I, who founded modern Jordan. Abdullah's dynasty, the Hashemites, ruled Mecca for over 700 years, from the 10th century until the House of Saud conquered Mecca in 1925, and have ruled Jordan since 1921. The Hashemites are the oldest ruling dynasty in the Muslim world. According to family tradition, Abdullah is the 41st-generation agnatic descendant of Muhammad's daughter Fatima and her husband, Ali, the fourth Rashidun Caliph. As Hussein's eldest son, Abdullah became heir apparent to the Jordanian throne under the 1952 constitution. Political instability caused King Hussein to appoint an adult heir in his place, choosing Abdullah's uncle Prince Hassan in 1965. Abdullah began his schooling in 1966 at the Islamic Educational College in Amman and continued at St. Edmund's School in England. He attended middle school at Eaglebrook School and high school at Deerfield Academy in the United States. He was the commencement speaker at Deerfield Academy's class of 2000 graduation. Abdullah has 4 brothers and 6 sisters: Princess Alia, Prince Faisal, Princess Aisha, Princess Zain, Princess Haya, Prince Ali, Prince Hamza, Prince Hashim, Princess Iman, and Princess Raya. 7 of them are paternal half-siblings. He began his military career at the Royal Military Academy Sandhurst in England in 1980, while he was a training officer in the Jordanian Armed Forces. After Sandhurst, Abdullah was commissioned as a second lieutenant in the British Army and served a year in Britain and West Germany as a troop commander in the 13th divided by 18th Royal Hussars. Abdullah was admitted to Pembroke College, Oxford, in 1982, where he completed a 1-year special studies course in Middle Eastern affairs. He joined the Royal Jordanian Army on his return home, serving as first lieutenant, and then as platoon commander and assistant commander of a company in the 40th Armored Brigade. Abdullah took a free-fall parachuting course in Jordan, and in 1985 he took the Armored Officers Advanced Course at Fort Knox. He became commander of a tank company in the 91st Armored Brigade, with the rank of captain. Abdullah also served with the Royal Jordanian Air Force's anti-tank helicopter wing, receiving training to fly Cobra attack helicopters. The prince then attended the Edmund A. Walsh School of Foreign Service at Georgetown University in Washington, D.C. in 1987. Undertaking advanced study and research in international affairs. He returned home to serve as assistant commander of the 17th Royal Tank Battalion in 1989, later being promoted to major. Abdullah attended a staff course at the British Staff College in 1990 and served the following year in the office of the Inspector General of the Jordanian Armed Forces as the Armored Corps representative. He commanded a battalion in the 2nd Armored Cavalry Regiment in 1992. And was promoted to colonel the following year, commanding the 40th Brigade. Abdullah met Rania al-Yassin, a marketing employee at Apple Inc. in Amman, at a dinner organized by his sister Princess Aisha in January 1993. They became engaged 2 months later, and their marriage took place in June. In 1994, Abdullah assumed command of Jordan's Special Forces and of other elite units as a brigadier general, restructuring them into the Joint Special Operations Command 2 years later. He became a major general, attended a course in Defense Resources Management at the American Naval Postgraduate School, and commanded an elite Special Forces manhunt in the pursuit of outlaws in 1998. The operation reportedly ended successfully, with his name chanted on the streets of Amman. Abdullah joined his father on a number of missions, including meetings abroad with Soviet and American leaders. He was occasionally King Hussein's regent during the 1990s, but this duty was mainly performed by Hussein's younger brother, Crown Prince Hassan. Abdullah led his father's delegation to Moscow for talks in 1987. He frequently visited the Pentagon in Washington, where he lobbied for increased military assistance to Jordan. The prince joined his father on trips to visit Hafez al-Assad in Damascus and Saddam Hussein in Baghdad. Abdullah commanded military exercises during Israeli military officials' visits to Jordan in 1997 and was sent to hand-deliver a message to Muammar Gaddafi in 1998. King Hussein frequently traveled to the U.S. for medical treatment after his diagnosis with cancer in 1992. After Hussein returned from a 6-month medical absence from Jordan in late 1998, he criticized his brother Hassan's management of Jordanian affairs in a public letter, accusing him of abusing his constitutional powers as regent. On the 24th of January 1999, 2 weeks before his death, Hussein surprised everyone, including Abdullah, who thought he would spend his life in the military, by replacing Hassan with his son as heir apparent. The king died of complications of non-Hodgkin lymphoma on the 7th of February 1999. His 47-year reign extended through 4 turbulent decades of the Arab-Israeli conflict and the Cold War. Several hours after the announcement of his father's death, Abdullah appeared at an emergency session of the Jordanian parliament. Hussein's 2 brothers, Hassan and Mohammed, walked ahead of him as he entered the assembly. In Arabic, he swore the oath taken by his father almost 50 years earlier. "I swear by Almighty God to uphold the Constitution and to be faithful to the nation." Speaker of the Senate Zayd al-Rifai opened the session with al-Fatih, his voice cracking with emotion as he led the recitation. "God, save His Majesty. God, give him advice and take care of him." Abdullah's investiture took place on the 9th of June 1999. A reception at Raghadan Palace attended by 800 dignitaries followed a motorcade ride through Amman by the 37-year-old king and his 29-year-old wife, Rainey, the then youngest queen in the world. As king, Abdullah retains wider executive and legislative authority than is normally the case for a constitutional monarch. He is head of state and commander-in-chief of the Jordanian armed forces and appoints the prime minister and the directors of security agencies. The prime minister is free to choose his cabinet. The Parliament of Jordan consists of 2 chambers, the appointed Senate and the elected House of Representatives, which serve as a check on the government. However, according to Freedom House, most seats in the House are held by pro-palace independents, and the Crown's authority is such that it is extremely difficult for a party to win power solely via the ballot box. The Senate is appointed by the king, and the House of Representatives is directly elected. When Abdullah ascended to the throne as Jordan's 4th king, observers doubted his ability to manage the country's economic crisis, a legacy of the 1990 Gulf War. The king maintained his father's moderate pro-Western policy, supporting the 1994 Israel-Jordan peace treaty, and the royal transition prompted the United States and Arab states of the Persian Gulf to increase their aid. In the early years of Abdullah's reign, which then ruled over a population of 4.5 million, it was reported that he frequently went undercover to see Jordan's challenges firsthand. In 2000, he said about his incognito visits to government institutions, "The bureaucrats are terrified. It's great." On the 23rd of June 2000, while vacationing in the Greek islands, Abdullah received a phone call from the director of Mukhabarat warning of an assassination attempt against him by al-Qaeda. The plot was to target Abdullah and his family's rented yacht with explosives. Jordan responded quickly to American requests for assistance, enacting counterterrorism legislation and maintaining a high level of vigilance. The country's Mukhabarat foiled similar plots the following year against Western targets, including the American and British embassies in Lebanon. With the George W. Bush administration planning an attack on Iraq, accusing Saddam Hussein of possessing weapons of mass destruction, Abdullah opposed American intervention. "A strike on Iraq will be disastrous for Iraq and the region as a whole and will threaten the security and stability of the Middle East," he warned during American Vice President Dick Cheney's 2002 visit to the Middle East. In March 2003, during a meeting with George W. Bush at the White House, Abdullah tried to dissuade the president from invading Iraq. During the 1990 Gulf War, King Hussein's wariness of war was seen as siding with Saddam Hussein, which alienated Jordan from its Arab allies in the Persian Gulf region and the Western world. His stance precipitated an economic crisis triggered by the suspension of foreign aid and investment to Jordan. Failing to persuade Bush, Abdullah broke with domestic opposition. He allowed American Patriot batteries to be stationed in the Jordanian desert along its border with Iraq, but did not allow coalition troops to launch an invasion from Jordan. Jordan had received subsidized oil from Saddam Hussein's Iraq at a savings of about $500 million per year, equal to American aid to Jordan at the time. The 2003 Jordanian general election was the first parliamentary election under Abdullah's rule. Although the election was supposed to be held in 2001, it was postponed by the king due to regional political instability in accordance with the Jordanian constitution. His postponement was criticized by the largest Islamist opposition party in the country, the Islamic Action Front, who accused Abdullah of impeding the democratic process. He inherited a controversial single non-transferable vote electoral system implemented by his father in 1991, which hobbled Islamic political parties after they obtained 22 of 80 seats in the 1989 election. Abdullah issued a royal decree before the election, introducing an amendment to the election law giving women a 6-seat quota in parliament. Jordan, the only country bordering the West Bank other than Israel, ruled it after the 1948 Arab-Israeli War and lost in the 1967 Six-Day War. Its annexation of the West Bank was not recognized, and in 1988 the kingdom ceded its claim to the territory. Abdullah met Trump briefly at the National Prayer Breakfast on the 2nd of February and reportedly convinced him to change his policy towards Israeli settlement. This was substantiated by White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer, who said 2 days later that the expansion of Israeli settlements may not be helpful in achieving peace. According to the New York Times, the encounter put the king, one of the most respected leaders of the Arab world, ahead of Mr. Netanyahu in seeing the new president. Senator Bob Corker confirmed Abdullah's influence in an interview. "We call him the Henry Kissinger of that part of the world, and we do always love to listen to his view of the region." Abdullah criticized United States' decision to recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. Jordan's foreign debt to GDP ratio fell from more than 210% in 1990 to 83% by the end of 2005, a decrease called an extraordinary achievement by the International Monetary Fund. Abdullah's efforts have made Jordan the freest Arab economy and the 9th freest economy in the world, according to a 2014 study by the Friedrich Naumann Foundation for Liberty. The king launched a number of initiatives to provide housing for Jordanian citizens, including teachers and those serving in the armed forces. He established awards to encourage good citizenship, including the King Abdullah II Award for Physical Fitness, the King Abdullah II Award for Excellence in Government Performance and Transparency, the King Abdullah II Award for Excellence for the Private Sector, and the King Abdullah II Award for Excellence for Business Associations. To combat unemployment, Abdullah established the National Vocational Training Council and formed a committee to develop a national strategy for developing human resources to produce a skilled workforce. Jordan was dependent on subsidized Iraqi oil for its energy. The 2003 American invasion of Iraq halted the petroleum supply and drove Jordan to begin importing gas from Egypt in 2009. Insurgency in Sinai began when the Arab Spring spread to Egypt, where the Arab gas pipeline runs. Since 2011, the pipeline has been attacked over 30 times by ISIL's Sinai affiliates, and the pipeline was effectively closed in 2014. Jordan incurred $6 billion in losses. The Great Recession and regional turmoil triggered by the Arab Spring during the 2010 seconds hobbled the Jordanian economy, making it increasingly reliant on foreign aid. The shocks hit Jordan's tourism sector hardest, and tourist arrivals have fallen by over 66% since 2011. However, in 2017, tourism started to pick up again. Growth of the Jordanian economy slowed to an annual average rate of 2.8% between 2010 and 2016, down from an average of 8% in previous years, insufficient to accommodate the exponential growth of the population. Jordan's total foreign debt in 2012 was $22 billion, 72% of its GDP. In 2016, the debt reached $35.1 billion, 95% of the country's GDP. The increase was attributed to regional challenges, which decreased tourist activity and foreign investment and increased military spending. Attacks on the Egyptian pipeline, the collapse of trade with Iraq and Syria, the expense of hosting Syrian refugees, and accumulated loan interest. According to the World Bank, Syrian refugees cost Jordan more than $2.5 billion a year. Foreign aid covers only a portion of these costs, 63% of which are borne by Jordan. An austerity program was adopted by the government which aims to reduce Jordan's debt to GDP ratio to 77% by 2021. Abdullah was criticized during his early years for focusing on economic, rather than political reform. A committee was formed in February 2005 to formulate a blueprint for political reform in the country for the next decade. This national agenda, finalized about 9 months later, was never implemented. It included incorporating proportional representation into general elections, improving the judicial branch and respect for human rights, and tackling issues related to employment, welfare, education, and infrastructure. The agenda was reportedly never implemented due to conservative opposition. After the Arab Spring, a new election law in 2012 was enacted and used in the 2013 elections. It incorporated elements of proportional representation, and 27 of the 150 House of Representatives members could be elected accordingly. A number of political reforms were undertaken to curtail some of the king's powers, including amending about 1/3 of the Constitution, establishing a constitutional court, and the Independent Election Commission, and improvements to laws governing human rights and freedom of speech and assembly. In 2014 and 2016, several constitutional amendments sparked controversy despite their overwhelming approval by senators. and representatives. The amendments gave the king sole authority to appoint his crown prince, deputy, the chief and members of the constitutional court, the heads of the military and paramilitary forces, and the country's general intelligence director. Proponents said that the amendments solidified the separation of powers, while critics claimed they were unconstitutional. Reforms introduced in the 2016 general election led Freedom House, a U.S.-funded non-governmental organization, to upgrade Jordan to partly free from not free in its Freedom in the World 2017 report. According to the report, Jordan became the third most free Arab country, and that the change was due to electoral law changes that led to somewhat fairer parliamentary elections. In September 2016, Abdullah formed a royal committee to make recommendations which would improve the country's judiciary. The committee finalized its report, which revolved around strengthening judicial independence and improving criminal justice, in February 2017. The parliament approved the recommendations, which included increased protection for women against violence and better trial procedures. A new law for people with disabilities was also enacted. Human Rights Watch praised the reforms. On the 15th of August 2017, local elections were held for municipal council, local councils, and governorate councils, which were added by a new decentralization law. The law intends to cede some central government power to elected councils, increasing citizen participation in municipal decision-making. In the 15th of August 2016 interview, Abdullah described the new decentralization law as a very important link in the chain of reforms. On the 10th of June 2021, Abdullah announced the introduction of a new committee of 92 members chaired by former Prime Minister Samir Rifai. The tasks of the committee are to modernize the political system and to propose new laws for local governments. On the 4th of October 2021, the committee handed over its recommendations to Abdullah. The committee proposed draft laws for political parties and elections, as well as 22 amendments to the Jordan Constitution regarding parliamentary work and empowering women and youth. In November 2021, Abdullah ordered the government to push for political modernization. The cabinet of Jordan submitted draft laws to the parliament following the committee's recommendations. In December 2021, a parliamentary discussion on the constitutional amendment that would give more rights to women resulted into a fistfight between members of parliament. On the 3rd of January 2022, the Jordan parliament passed an amendment to Article 40 of the Constitution, which allows Abdullah to appoint or dismiss the Chief Justice, the head of the Sharia Judicial Council, the Grand Mufti of Jordan, the Chief of the Royal Court, the Minister of the Court, and the advisors to the King. On the 6th of January 2022, Jordan Parliament approved constitutional reforms by a majority of 104-8, including improvement of women's rights, lowering the minimum age for elected deputies to 25, and the Prime Minister being elected by the Assembly's largest single party. Due to his military background, Abdullah believes in a powerful military and has followed a quality over quantity policy. During the first year of his reign, he established the King Abdullah Design and Development Bureau, whose goal is to provide an indigenous capability for the supply of scientific and technical services to the Jordanian armed forces. The company manufactures a wide variety of military products, which are presented at the biennial International Special Operations Forces exhibition. Abdullah is SOFEX's patron. Abdullah modernized the army, leading Jordan to acquire advanced weaponry and increase and enhance its F-16 fighter jet fleet. The king occasionally trains with the Jordanian army in live ammunition military drills. Vandalism of the Egyptian pipeline supplying Jordan strained the country's electrical company, whose debt increased substantially. This prompted Abdullah to urge the government to formulate a 10-year plan to diversify the kingdom's energy sources. In 2007, Abdullah said that Jordan intends to benefit from its large uranium reserves by building nuclear reactors to generate electricity. The country is one of the few non-petroleum producing nations in the region. Early on, in a 2010 interview, Abdullah accused Israel of trying to disrupt Jordan's nuclear program. Abdullah inaugurated Jordan's first nuclear facility in 2016, the Jordan Research and Training Reactor, in the Jordan University of Science and Technology near Ramtha, aims to train Jordanian students in the school's nuclear engineering program. In 2018, the country's Atomic Energy Commission announced that Jordan was in talks with multiple companies to build the first commercial nuclear plant, a helium-cooled reactor that is scheduled for completion in 2025. The country has 330 days of sunshine per year, and wind speeds exceed 7 meters per second in mountainous areas. During the 2010 seconds, Abdullah inaugurated the 117 MW Tafila wind farm and the 53 MW Shams manpower plant. In May 2017, it was announced that more than 200 MW of solar energy projects had been completed. After having initially set the percentage of renewable energy Jordan aimed to generate by 2020 at 10%, the government announced in 2018 that it sought to beat that figure and aim for 20%. A report by PV Magazine described Jordan as the Middle East's solar powerhouse. In 2014, a declaration of intent was signed by Jordan's national electrical company and Noble Energy to import gas from Israel's offshore Leviathan gas field, a 15-year deal estimated at $10 billion. The move provoked outrage by opponents, including the boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement, which said that the agreement favored Israel and its occupation of the West Bank and accused the government of ignoring renewable energy options. The agreement, effective in 2019, was signed in September 2016. Separately, Abdullah opened a liquefied natural gas port in Aqaba in 2015, allowing Jordan to import LNG. LNG-generated electricity saves Jordan about $1 million a day and is reportedly better for the environment. In response to Islamophobic rhetoric after the 11th of September attacks, Abdullah issued the Amman Message in November 2004. The message is a detailed statement which encouraged Muslim scholars of all sects from around the world to denounce terrorism, practice religious tolerance, and represent the true nature of the Muslim faith. The statement was adopted unanimously in a conference hosted by Abdullah in Amman in 2005 by 200 leading Islamic scholars. The message stressed 3 points: the validity of all 8 schools of Islam, the forbidding of takfir and standards for the issuance of fatwas. The Islamic religious consensus was unprecedented in contemporary times. Abdullah presented the message in 2010 to the United Nations General Assembly, where he proposed a World Interfaith Harmony Week. The initiative was adopted and is an annual celebration during the first week of February to promote peace and harmony among people of different faiths. Abdullah also established an award based on this initiative for interfaith dialogue. The Al-Aqsa Mosque compound in Jerusalem was under Jordanian rule from 1948 to 1967. It was under Hashemite custodianship since 1924, during the reign of Abdullah's great-great-grandfather Sharif Hussein bin Ali. The legacy began when the Supreme Muslim Council, the highest body in charge of Muslim community affairs in Mandatory Palestine, accepted the Sharif as custodian of the site. He restored the Jami al-Aqsa and other mosques in Palestine. The Sharif's son, King Abdullah I, is said to have personally taken charge of efforts to extinguish a fire which engulfed the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in 1949. Jami al-Aqsa and the Dome of the Rock were restored 4 times by the Hashemites during the 20th century, and the custodianship became a Hashemite legacy given by Jordanian kings. In 2013, an agreement was signed between the Palestinian Authority and Abdullah, replacing the decades-old verbal agreement which was reinforced by the 1994 Israel-Jordan Peace Treaty. Jordan recalled its ambassador to Israel in 2014 following tensions at Al-Aqsa Mosque between Israelis and Palestinians concerned about Jordan's role in safeguarding Muslim and Christian sacred sites in Jerusalem. Abdullah met Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in Amman in late 2014, and the Jordanian ambassador returned when Israeli authorities eased restrictions and revoked a decision that prevented men of all ages from praying at Al-Aqsa for the first time in months. In 2016, it was announced that Abdullah would fund the restoration of the tomb of Jesus in the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. The Royal Hashemite Court informed Orthodox Patriarch Theophilos III of Jerusalem of the Makram in the 10th of April 2016 letter. The tomb had been untouched since 1947, when the British installed steel support beams as part of a restoration project which never took place. It was reopened to the public on the 22nd of March 2017 after the renovation. On the 2nd of August 2017, Abdullah donated $1.4 million to the Jerusalem Waqf, the body that belongs to Jordan and is responsible for administering the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound. An independent report estimates the total amount that the Hashemites have spent since 1924 on administering and renovating Jami al-Aqsa as over $1 billion. In 2014, Abdullah received Pope Francis in Jordan, the 3rd papal visit of his reign. The king, Queen Rania, and Prince Ghazi accompanied the Pope to Al-Matas, the site of Jesus' baptism, on the east bank of the Jordan River. Abdullah led the 500 Most Influential Muslims 2016 list, published by the Royal Islamic Strategic Studies Center, and was 3rd on its 2018 list. Queen Rania was 35th on the 2016 list. Leaders of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre sent out a letter of support to Abdullah on the 1st of March 2018 after Israel shelved a proposed bill that aimed to propose new tax measures to churches in the West Bank. Your defense of religious freedom and your leadership in ensuring that the status quo is respected and maintained has been crucial in our ongoing attempts to guard and protect the Christian presence, especially in the holy city of Jerusalem, the letter read. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and keep exploring the world's incredible stories. I stop at this point today. I hope I added something to you. You enjoyed the last few minutes. We will meet with you soon. Thank you.